Hi everyone, Josh Keeley. I'm the director and co-founder of Trident Search, a specialist cybersecurity recruitment agency based in the UK.
That's great, thanks Josh. And could I pass over to Ameer?
Hi there, I'm Ameer Al-Nemrat. I'm a reader in cybersecurity and the director of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence center at the University of East London.
Lovely, thank you very much, Ameer. And over to yourself, Pete.
Hi everyone, Pete Sanders. I'm the co-founder and director of Identifi Global, a cybersecurity recruitment specialist. I'm also the founder of CREST, which stands for the Confederation of Ethical Recruiters and Information Security, which is a body aimed at improving the standard of recruitment within the cybersecurity industry.
Lovely, thank you very much. And last but not least, over to you, Thaddeus.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Thaddeus. I'm a senior lecturer in cybersecurity and the program leader for MSc Cybersecurity, University of Chester.
That's great, thank you very much. And as I say, as you can see, there are some good careers advice that you can obtain from here today. So really, from your points of view on our panel today, one of the things that I think we've all had in the past is we've had a reply that said something along the lines of, I'm sorry, you do not have enough work experience when you've been applying for a job, which can be quite demoralising when you've already really worked hard for 3 to 4 years to get your qualification. So really, from your point of view, what could a person do to gain that experience that they can put forward to at least show that they have been working towards something and can show that, you know, where they gain their experience from? So I wonder if we could start looking at that, perhaps, you know, things like what could they do within industry to gain that experience, or what could they do from a volunteering point of view? So who would like to start our discussion off for us on the panel on that one?
I can start, no problem.
Lovely, thank you, Ameer.
Thank you. I think this is a very important point, I mean, to start with, which is, as you mentioned, I mean, this is the start point for any applicant as well, in terms of applying for a job and waiting for to receive an answer or a response about their application. And most likely, as you said, the response maybe is negative, not as they wish. But when it's come to the feedback, sometimes, as is exactly as you highlighted, this is sometimes, you know, there is a lack of experience, there is a lack of maybe the skills required for that specific job. And the reason for that, I guess, sometimes, you know, because of that job description is required that type of skills, but at the same time as well, some of the reason as related to the applicant themselves, by not trying to map their skills to the required skill set required for that job in that job description. So this is one of the most important points, to try to understand that job description at the beginning. Try to think how you, as a student or as an applicant, you try to map your current skill to fit in that criteria. And I would like as well to add here in many cases, although sometimes, you know, you see this type, the skill set required for that job is really maybe very high, but should not that prevent you from trying to, as I'm using really repeating the word mapping your skills to that specific skills. Because when someone applying, or any business, when they write the job description, they aim to get the best candidate for that job, but not always the case. I mean, although they wish to have that best candidate, but maybe they won't have that within the applicant pool or that CV pool that they receive. They have that. So if you have that, trying to really to understand that job description and map it to your own skills and the strength, it will give you a good chance.
Yeah, I'll add to that if that's okay as well. I guess let me start by saying that, you know, if you're a graduate, you know, fresh out of university or whatever your path is in terms of your entry point into cybersecurity, whether you're coming out of the forces or whatever, getting a job, your first job in cybersecurity is hard, okay? There are very little entry-level roles within cybersecurity in the market. And, you know, when there is one that comes up, you know, guess what? You're going to have a million applicants that you're going to be fighting against. So, so that's the first thing. You know, you know, don't beat yourself up on that. It is hard to get into the industry. Once you're in, it's a bit easier as you progress forward. But get used to applying for jobs that you don't have all the skill set for, right? Because that's cybersecurity. The industry is consistently changing. You know, when you apply for jobs, you're only really ever going to have sort of 80% of the skills that are required. The other 20% are growth aspects of your career. So you'll gain those extra 20% to then move on to your next role, which you'll apply for. You'll have 8% of the skills, and you grow and you grow and you keep going. Certain people get to a stage where they specialize in one particular area, and then they typically become contractors or you know, specialists within their organizations. The key thing for me is, and what we see a lot of, is people applying for any job, okay, any random job in cybersecurity, because you just want to get into the industry, and I get it. But you really have to focus on what it is you want to achieve. Now, it's not to say that you can't change your career or pivot once you're in the industry, but if you're applying, you know, and we've seen it, applying to the same organization for a pen tester, for an analyst, for a SOC role, for you know, for a GRC role, it doesn't look like you've got any sort of focus, okay? If you focus on a particular role that you want to get into and why, then you can really start to apply how you go about getting that job, networking at certain events, you know, applying for multiples. You might even get an interview and then get an idea of what's being asked to interview, to then go away and say, okay, well, they asked me a lot about, I don't know, vulnerability management tools. I don't know anything about those. So you then go away and start to research those. So the next time you get an interview, you then become more experienced at those types of questions and you're more knowledgeable. And then you start to almost edge your way into the industry step by step. You know, if you're fortunate enough to get into industry, you know, straight away, then great. You know, it's the start of your lifelong learning path within cybersecurity. But I also recognise it's not always possible to get into cybersecurity, or, you know, get a job in cybersecurity. And the advice that I always give to everybody is to get a role within an IT organisation. Okay, and that's important. It's IT, because you know, you're going to need to then work your way in that organisation and volunteer yourself within that organisation. So you might get a support job, and you'll hear a lot of people say, get yourself a IT support job as a starting point. And that's really helpful. But then when you're in there, don't just sit there and do that role. Start volunteering. Go and find out who is in charge of cybersecurity. Go and identify weaknesses or gaps in the organisation that you've seen, you know, based on your knowledge from your courses and things like that. And then start to recommend and volunteer your services. And then you can start to add experience into your working life, because then you'll be able to demonstrate that not only have you been working within a IT focused role, but you've also gained cybersecurity knowledge in that time. And then you know, everything I said prior to that, keep applying to that, and then you're into your first cybersecurity role. Hope that made sense. That was a bit of a.
It was good. Just to add on to what Pete said there about, I suppose, just to add, manage your own expectations. So just because a colleague of yours or a friend of yours who graduated or left the military that you used to work with got a job at X salary, for example, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to come out on that level. And why that's relevant to having no experience or having that kind of rejection. I've got no experience, is because if you put yourselves in the shoes of a hiring manager who's got a candidate who's got 12 months, 18 months experience in industry, going for the same job that you are, even if it does look entry level, chances are if you price yourself out, then they can't justify hiring someone straight from university on the same salary level. So just bear that in mind. And also around expectations, if you are willing to be flexible around location, team size, industry, etc., you can then broaden the applications that you put out in regards to, I suppose, giving yourself the biggest opportunity or the best opportunity possible to get that one person to say yes. So I won't talk too much about internships and placements or year in industry, because Thaddeus, I know you you're building something on you at Chester around the kind of placement year within the master's degree?
Yeah, I will touch on that when I give my contribution. But are you going on, or should I come in here?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's an experience everyone I guess most people must have had. And I discovered this when I started applying for jobs. Most organizations want experience, but they are not willing to give you that experience. So I'm like, okay, where do I get those experience? Do I plug them from the tree? But just to add to what Josh has said there, if you're a student, okay, some universities in some programs offer the option of year in industry, like we do in Chester. So for some programs, that is not optional. You have to go into the industry to have experience as part of your learning. But for some where it is optional, you have the opportunity to go to the industry to have experience. And the good thing there is that the university helps you to arrange those opportunities. So like in my uni, if you go into conversations with any organization that you want to have a year in industry there, or just a placement opportunity, you take that conversation to the work-based learning department, who now formally arranges that with you. So it becomes a bit easier. If you don't have that chance of where to discuss, or have any organization you want to talk to, you can approach the department and they will help you to get that set up. That is what I would encourage those who have that option to their learning to jump on that. Another thing, because the question is, how do we get that experience? And I will add, as a student, there are free tools that are available. And most times you will realize that when you get into a job, you will be using these tools to do the work. So you have the Oracle VirtualBox that you can use to simulate or spin out virtual machines or virtual network. You have the EVE-NG you can use to simulate a real network and play around with those things. You have a Kali virtual machine and Metasploitable and other vulnerable systems that you can use to practice. And then there are capture the flag events that organizations organize that are free, that you can attend. You have hack the box activity or system that you can play around with. So I would encourage students and anyone really to get their hands on these free tools and free systems that you can use to practice and build your experience on. And then when you sit before someone and you speak in the language they understand, that is the language of cybersecurity.
That's great. Thank you very much. And I mean, there's a lot of things that can be covered and a lot of things that people can do, isn't there? And as you said, you've sort of said about the extracurricular things, about tools, and there are things like capture the flag, and lots of things that you can access from a university point of view. And I think we might have lost Ameer, I'm not sure. So sorry, Thaddeus, this might come back for you. But would there be some guidance that you would be saying to graduates to have a look at with regards to things like capture the flag or any other places that they could go to gain some experience and some knowledge about what's going on in the industry out there?
There are a lot of free events that are organized out there. I don't have anyone on top of my head now, but organizations like CREST do organize some events. I don't have a complete picture of all the events you organize. And there are also organizations like BCS, the IET, IEEE, even the NCSC, GCHQ, and what I would just say is search on Google, capture the flag CTFs, and see what is happening near you. These sometimes happen as part of a conference, either technical conference or academic conference. So get in there. If some of them might be paid experience, okay, paid opportunity. If you want to invest in getting that experience, which I think is advisable, you can jump on those and go in there, practice with other people. There are competitions like hackathons, okay. Some of them might be related to cybersecurity. Now, the good thing is when you go into these activities, you work in teams, and those teams are made up of people at different level of expertise or experience. So you learn from them, and those are the kind of things. If I'm sitting in an interview panel, those are the kind of experiences I would like to see that you have. That you've gone out there to work with others to see what really happens out there, to challenge yourself really. So as a student, sorry that I will always come back to students, because that is my comfort zone. As students, I would say really challenge yourself. Go out of the class. You would have seen it that the contact hours you have with your tutors can never be enough, okay, for you to learn all the things you need. You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to go out of the class to see what is happening and get involved in those activities. Hope I'm making sense and not rambling here.
Not at all. Makes sense to me.
I think I'll just add to that. I think it's I don't know the group of people we've got on in terms of what levels, but typically students are very well catered for in terms of opportunities for capture the flags, hackathons. But generally penetration testers are typically well catered for. There's lots of events like that. Not everybody wants to be a penetration tester. Some people just want to get into the industry for the love of it, and it's a good entry point. Okay, and if you are looking to get cyber, it's a good skill to hone into, even in the early days. Even if you don't have no intention of being a penetration tester, do get involved in that. But it's an ongoing process, I would say. Just because you do one capture the flag or one hackathon doesn't mean you've done them all. They're all different. They're all have different focuses, different styles. They're often sponsored by organisations or local businesses or cluster groups and things like that. So doing loads of them will get you exposure to lots of different types of companies and sponsors and things like that. So it's an ongoing process. And actually, they're good things to talk about in an interview. They aren't necessarily going to get you the job, but they will show that you have a passion for the industry and that you're constantly keeping yourself up to date, keeping your skills up to date whilst you find a suitable opportunity. The other thing that and I'll just mention it is career pivoting. I get a lot of people that have been in IT for a number of years, and I think we mentioned salary a moment ago. Is that it's hard for people that have been in, doing their career and get to the point where they want to go into cyber, and then they have to go back to an entry-level role in cyber, or a step 1 or 2 down from where they are at the minute, which means less money potentially, and that's going to potentially always happen. I guess it comes down to how much you want to be invested into that industry, because you might have to take 2 steps backwards to take 3 steps forwards. So that is really hard, and it is very similar to what I mentioned earlier in terms of aligning your skills, understanding what transferable skills you do have. Experience in cybersecurity or just experience in IT is a big transferable skill. But looking at the key jobs you want to do and seeing what you can do already, that might only be 1 or 2 things, and then looking where you need to train, and it does mean investment. And again, if you are employed by somebody, it's very likely they will invest in your certifications because it will contribute to their organisation. So talk to your company, even if you have no training budget. If you go and talk to your employer saying, I'm interested in doing this, would you contribute to that? Then often they will do. And I've seen it many, many times where they paid for really valuable certifications They might have a clause that say you have to pay some of that back if you leave within a certain period of time. But you know what? You're not the one laying it up front. You know, you're gonna pay it back a little bit to move, but hopefully you're moving on to maybe a higher paid job or a better suited job for your future. So it's an investment at that point.
That's great, thank you. And we have had a question come in, and it just kind of rolls on from what you were saying. So, what entry level jobs can a person look at other than pen testing?
SOC analyst roles. You can look at the defensive side of things. You can look at junior SOC analyst roles, which you'll find plenty a dozen in the service provider side of life, which we call managed security service providers, or MSSPs. The difficulty we face, personally, and Pete, I'm sure you guys face this as well, is we find lots of people graduating, and we'll just kind of keep to the grad kind of skip sort of theme here, is then looking for remote roles, whereas a lot of these MSSPs, and albeit during COVID is slightly different, if you are a junior or entry level, let's say SOC analyst, you need to be in the SOC. You need to be surrounded by your peers, your colleagues, people that are more experienced than you, and learning and developing. So just bear that in mind around location and flexibility. But yeah, junior SOC analyst roles. You can look at like junior consulting roles as well, which again are plenty a dozen. There's lots of large, like the Big Four, for example, like KPMG, Deloitte, etc., that have kind of grad programs that are starting to pick back up again. Now COVID's kind of hopefully seeing the back end of it. And then, like Pete said, look at the IT roles, IT support roles. Start on a service desk. A service desk and a SOC are very, very similar in the way they operate. Ticketing systems, login, triaging, and remediating, but it's just what they, obviously the principle or the theme of it is different. So if you can have experience working on a ticketing system like ServiceNow and transition that to using a scene tool, then it's very transferable. So even a year as a service desk analyst is okay. It might not be the end goal, but if you could do that during that time, pick up a few CompTIA, Security Plus, Network Plus, a CREST exam, I think you'd be well placed to then kind of move into a SOC role, either in the same company or elsewhere. But yeah, so junior consultants, junior SOC analysts. I don't know, Pete, if you've got any other thoughts.
Yeah, so systems administrators is a really fantastic place to start. Reason for that is because it is literally at the bottom of the pile, and I mean that respectfully, because there are some really well-paid systems administrators, but it's typically database layer, and that's what you understand the controls happening from essentially ground zero. So they're really good entry-level roles that are often well-trained, well-managed, so it means that you don't necessarily need a lot of experience. Security engineers, junior security engineers, the term security engineer means a lot of things, and often it can just be database management, it could be ISMS management, information systems management. So it's security focused, but essentially working from Excel spreadsheets a lot of the time, or I mean, it's more sophisticated tools that companies have built now, GRC tools, so things like that. So again, security analyst, I mean, it means a lot of things to a lot of different organizations, but being a security analyst can mean, sort of junior security analyst is a good title to look for, but sometimes a security analyst is a junior role within an organization, depending on the size.
The security engineering point picked up there, Pete, it's a great avenue for your kind of computer science grads, your Python developers, your coding, your scripting, because a lot of that role is about how do I configure, implement, automate, make processes simpler, especially the mundane, repetitive processes. A lot of that's done through short scripts in PowerShell, Bash, etc. But it's a very good entry route into, as Pete said, it's a broad role depending on the type of company and stuff. But if you have that coding experience or you would like to learn more about it, then security engineering is a really good start. But yeah, there's plenty. I think there's plenty of routes in. But yeah.
I think the one skill, and you reminded me there, Josh. The one skill that is highly sought after, and I speak to so many grads that go, yeah, I did a bit of that in my course, is scripting and development. Okay, people don't think that that's a core part. I mean, whilst you won't use it forever, but even if you've done it in your course, when you come out, keep developing that skill, it'll be that skill. If nothing else, if you're really good at that, will get you into a role, because everything else on top of that can be taught. But that's the bit that takes a little bit longer to develop. So if you can, even if you hate it, I would highly recommend that you just keep polishing up your skills so that you can talk confidently about it.
That's great. Thank you very much. Now, we have had another question come in. I'm not sure what advice you can give here, but it's from an international student point of view. So what advice would you give to international students who did have experience in their home country? Also, their university don't have any placement departments. So how can they then apply for internship programs or company placements I would take it within the UK?
I think you have to, sorry, but I'll take this quickly. You have to, firstly, do you require sponsorship? Or have you been in the UK previously before December 2019? And if so, then be realistic and manage your expectations around the type of companies that you can approach. Because you'll be banging your head against the wall, going down lots of dead ends if you are approaching the smaller businesses who cannot or will not offer sponsorship. Typically because they don't have the administration process, or they just don't want to go down the sponsorship route, because they put their bet on the fact that they can find the right to work. So my piece of advice here, really short and sharp, would be look at, again, the big four, look at the big consultancies, look at the big organizations who can offer sponsorship, especially if you have existing industry experience, and even more so if your skill set is quite niche. So like Pete said, if you are a programmer who's been a security engineer, or you have a very niche skill set around malware reverse engineering, for example, the skill set's highly sought after. You just have to get around the logistical points of sponsorship, relocation, salary expectations and stuff. So work with international recruiters that can give you that advice. But more importantly, you can, Debbie, maybe we can put the link in this after, but there is a website, I can't remember off the top of my head, that does outline all of the organizations in a sector that can offer sponsorship. Might be a gov.uk site, but that's where you should be looking, because that's going to be the biggest hurdle, which is sponsorship, and clearly not your experience.
That's great, excellent. I will have a look for that. I'll see if I can try and find the link whilst you're discussing, and we'll get that in the chat. If not, what we'll do is we will send it out to everybody that's attended afterwards. So thanks for that, Josh. So another one's coming from international students, actually. So what's the option for an international student with no prior experience in the industry, but only a master's in cybersecurity?
Okay, so let me come in here. I think I will respond to the two questions together. One is, as an international student, that implies you are here on a student visa, and that has a lot of restrictions, unfortunately, to what you can do. So you are sort of limited in some ways. Now, if your program doesn't have an option for placement or year in industry, different universities call it different things. That is the opportunity to go into the industry to do some work. There are basically two options you have, in my opinion. One is volunteering. Okay, so where you approach a company and say and ask for opportunities to volunteer, because as an international student, you are allowed to work maximum of 20 hours a week, and that is not a lot, because you also have bills to pay. If you're a student that need to raise some money to pay your bills within those 20 hours, that is another constraint there for you. But volunteering is one option. What you can do, reach out to organizations and ask to volunteer. But then again, if you want to volunteer, or if you want to go to an industry, you've got to have something to offer. Okay, you can't just come and say, look, I am a clean slate here. I just want to come and learn. There are not universities or academic institutions to teach you. Some of them might be might be willing to do that. But you can use the tools that we mentioned. It might be strange to some, but YouTube is kind of a wealth of knowledge that you can learn a lot there. Start from there. Start from some of the ones I've just mentioned. Get something on top of your tips and the tips of your fingers, sorry, and then get into volunteer. Another option is using those 20 hours a week you have to look for part-time jobs, part-time roles in IT. It could be like Josh and Pete have said, any IT role, entry role to gain those experience, okay, to start getting the experience, or in cybersecurity related roles. Unfortunately, there is this question people ask me. I don't have background in computing or in cybersecurity, but I really want to come into this field. Some universities like ours offer conversion programs. That is conversion programs in cybersecurity. So where you're not required to have any background or related experience to come on the program. So the program builds, starts from the ground up and gives you those foundational knowledge that you need. And depending on how the program is designed, hopefully will give you access to some experience that can help you. But other than that, not having prior experience before, the only way you can get that experience is getting into the system. And one thing, lastly, please, that I found very helpful for me as an international student when I was here, when I came to study, was networking. Okay, so don't sit alone. Reach out, join professional organizations. I joined the BCS as a student. I joined the IEEE. And I'm still an IEEE member today. There is IET. There are so many professional organizations there you can join. They have meetings, conferences, networking events where you go and meet people and strike conversation. And you might see that, you might notice that you've created a network with someone who can give you that opportunity to gain the experience that you want. That basically was how I got some of the opportunities I had as an international student.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you very much, Thaddeus. Pete, Josh, have you got anything that you'd like to add to that?
I was just going to say that, it's now obviously increasingly harder to gain work access in the UK. It's, as we've just been discussing, it's hard to get an entry-level role in the UK if you're already here, let alone coming into the UK now. It's increasingly more difficult. The advice that Josh gave was perfect in terms of looking at the list of organisations that actually offer sponsorship. There's loads of them, loads and loads and loads of them. Some of them have unlimited sponsorship. Some of them will have a certain amount of sponsorship, they say, typically for more senior executive type roles. But there's lots of organisations that do offer sponsorship. And many consulting firms that are global firms that Josh mentioned, probably have a location in your country already. You can often then do intercompany transfers, which is the typical route that people come into the UK, with experience. The other thing is, obviously CREST has a massive network, and I know CREST offer a CV sharing facility, and if you're looking for opportunities, they may be able to share with a CREST organisation in your country. So to share your CV with CREST, and they will send it out to all of the CREST member companies to see if there's any uptake on that. That's always a good option. It's always that chicken and egg scenario, isn't it? What came first, the experience or the job? And it's going to be difficult if you're not in this country with prior experience.
Great, thank you. And just following on from this, just one quick question. Somebody's actually said, is it a benefit to pursuing a master's in cybersecurity over a bachelor's degree? Do these get viewed more positively by employers, or are they not really worried?
I think one or the other is, they're both of equal value. I don't think there's any difference. Because not everybody has gone, and everyone's got different routes. One thing you'll learn in cybersecurity that everybody has multiple routes into the industry. Whether it's career pivot, halfway down their career, or entry level in. They've gone. I know people who've done English degrees and then gone, actually, I quite like the look of cyber, and then they've gone and done a master's cyber. So it really doesn't matter. It's what you do from that point going forwards is the most important. It's a continual learning curve. Just because you've done a bachelor's or a master's does not make you an expert. It's the first step on your career ladder, if you like.
Just to add to that, I agree with Pete on that. I wouldn't say this is better than the other, but then it is, at the end of the day, it is relative, isn't it? You've got to sit down and ask yourself, what exactly do I want? I think the basic that we have all established here is that employers are looking for experience. And I think some of them don't mind how you got that experience. It's all about what can you offer, what can you bring on the table. Having said that, definitely degree program and master's program are not the same. Okay, so I give you an example. In degree program, you do a lot of other modules like database, website development. Mathematics, some other things that you wouldn't do, or you would be expected to have experience or knowledge of before you come on the master's program. So these are the differences. So it's up to you really which one you want to go for. But then if you have studied at level 6 before, or you already have a degree, I'm not sure you would want to go back and get another first degree in cybersecurity, but nobody says it is impossible or you shouldn't do that. It might be better to go for masters. Another difference is that masters you spend 1 year, but degree you're going to spend 3 years. So these are things you have to weigh before you make that decision.
Great, thank you very much. And moving on a little bit into certifications. So you're out there, don't know what certifications you should do, want to do. Is there any advice you could give to people about the minefield, which is certifications, when they're looking about where they should go for their career pathway, what they should, the places they should be looking?
Yeah, I'll start on this one. There are, should we say, infographics. I know there is one on the CREST website which says, hey, you're here, you want to get to this level of professional in this job line or job sort of vertical within cyber, then these are the ideal certifications you can take along the way. And there are wider sort of infographics and charts, etc. on, if you just Google certifications for cyber career pathways. But that's, I suppose, yeah, one route. Job descriptions have got a hell of a lot better over the years. So they are the certification part and a job description. They've become better in terms of more specific and not so generalist. So you're not going to, you're less so find CISP on a SOC analyst job spec. But you can certainly use that as another route to inform yourself of job certifications to look to undertake. And then you should look at, I suppose it's completely dependent, I should have started with this, with where you want to go in your career. Also, what can you afford? There are so many that are so expensive, such as SANS, which can cost about £7,000 for the course and the certification, or the exam. So it's kind of like what's in your wheelhouse around affordability, and what are out there that can be free. I'm sure well, there are many, and I'm sure there'll be links that are put into this webinar later, but there are lots and lots and lots of free certifications that you can use to bulk out your CV. But I think the most important thing is to first of all understand or try and identify where you want to go and align your certifications to that by job descriptions, the charts that are on the different certification sort of governing body websites, and then what you can afford.
I would also add to that. Some of the certifications have prerequisites. Okay, some of them have some level of experience you must have before you come on them. For example, the CISP requires you to have worked for 5 years in the industry in cybersecurity paid role, not voluntary. I'm not sure why. Before you can get the certification, although you are encouraged to do it and be an associate. But then what I just want to say that there is check out what the prerequisites are before you get on them, and because different organizations look out for different certifications, and you ask this question to 10 people, and likely they are going to give you 10 different answers in terms of where to start. And so what I would say is start with the low-hanging fruits. Okay, if it is the free ones that Josh has just mentioned, or the easy ones, if there are anything like easy, but yeah, anyone you can lay your hands on at the moment, and then have a proper plan and a pathway to where you want to go, like Josh has said.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult because, especially if you're recently graduated, you're not entirely sure what your career path is. You're not quite sure. There's loads of different aspects of cybersecurity, many of which you probably won't even know that it's a career or there's a job role in that. Which is why I think Cybery is such it's a website which you can go on and you can take loads of free courses, or you can do the training at least on a lot of courses to find out whether or not it interests you before investing quite a significant amount of money in doing training courses. Okay, some of them are very expensive, and depending on your chosen path, may be completely irrelevant. It's not going to be useless, but certain jobs just aren't going to ask for certain certifications. So Cybery is a really good website to allow you to play around with different courses, build your knowledge. But I will, in big, red marks, they are not qualifications unless you pay for them. Okay, on the Cybery website. So please do not put them on your CV to say that you've done it's a course, and you see this a lot of people saying they've done the training. CISP training or SANS training, that is not a qualification, because you'll quickly be exposed, in an interview if you're misrepresenting the truth, shall we say. Cybery is a great website to look at, for you to play around, look at the certain ones that you can do as many as you want, and then there are certain ones where you get discounted certification fees, or it's given you enough confidence to go away and say, right, I'm going to go and do the full certification with whoever. So, but as I said earlier, it's about choosing your path. Ideally, is to then say, doing the certifications. Doing those will build lots of knowledge and lots of experience. And there are people in the industry that have let their certifications lapse. Okay, and if you're constantly updating your skills, you will quickly leapfrog these individuals in the industry, because you will come with better knowledge. Okay, so the certifications are a key part of your career in cybersecurity. When you're a bit long in the tooth and you've been in the industry 30 years, certain people go, I don't need CISP anymore. I know it all, but it will catch you up if you don't say it, because organisations, they demand it, they want it. It's part of their assurance to know that they've got certified people looking after their security. And there is, as the industry is always changing, the certifications are a good way of staying on top of the trends and what's going on in the industry.
Can I quickly add? Sorry, if you're a student, you might want to check what services your university has in terms of training. For example, in my uni, we have free access to LinkedIn Learning. If you're a student or staff at the university, you can use your university login to access loads of training materials and free training on LinkedIn Learning, and that ordinarily would have cost you a lot if you wanted to do it yourself. And also some of the trainings that are not free, if you don't have access to them, we will give you a free 30 days trial. Okay, I used those a lot when I was a student, and so you sign up when you have time. Okay, so within those 30 free days, you can learn a lot. Okay, and then later decide, like Pete said, whether this is what you want to invest in to write the exam.
Great, thank you very much. Now, a quick question that's just coming off the back of that. So if someone had paid for their CompTIA Security Plus exam, but didn't feel prepared to take it, they're asking whether they could still add that to their resume that they are about to take it, or whether you wouldn't think that would be.
Pete's I hate this.
No. Look, there's plenty of time. I mean, you know, I would ask, let me put that question back to you. What value does that have? You know, you can say, I would, if you really want to put it on there to demonstrate that you're doing something, you could put that it's in view. But imagine going to an interview, if you were the interviewer and you sat in front of someone who said, I wasn't quite ready to take it. Doesn't really fill you with confidence to say, well, what makes you think you're ready to do this job? You know, so it is a, yeah. Personally, I think it's. And I'm stealing somebody else's phrase here from the other day, but if it's not adding, it's detracting, and I think that you know, that is true. You can say that you're planning to take the certification, and I would say that you're planning to take the certification if you was to go to an interview. I wouldn't necessarily tell them that you're not quite ready for it, because that would suggest that you need more training, which means that you're probably not at the level that they might need for the role.
That's great.
Sorry, there's the only caveat to that is that it does, Pete, you did allude to this, it does highlight you are committed to development, but I've paid for it out of my own pocket. I've paid £200, £300, but you've got to be very careful how you word it, that you're not ready for it. It could be the fact that you could just mention that it's booked for Christmas time because that was the earliest that I could book it for, as opposed to I'm not ready, because again that highlights inexperience, that highlights, but doesn't give you confidence, does it? If I'm a hiring manager, but maybe just use a different reason for why it's down the line. But the fact you booked it already demonstrates that you are willing to invest, and if you are to be hired as that individual, once you're in that chair, they know that they're hopefully going to continue development from you off your own back. But yeah, just be careful how you word it, and try and give some confidence rather than, like you said, if it doesn't add, it subtracts.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that it depends on how you say it. Don't oversell yourself, because if you see it before an experienced person in an interview, they will find you out, and it doesn't look good when that happens. So it's good to show that you're committed, you're doing this, but then you need to be mindful that you don't have a whole list of in-view training or in-view certification. Okay, the question is, okay, what have you actually done? You know, it's not like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am planning to know. That shows on seriousness. Okay, but if you have 1 or 2 that you have paid for, just be honest with them. This is what I've done. Some people will actually appreciate it better than.
Yeah, 100%.
That is fantastic. We've run out of time. In fact, we've gone a little bit over time. So thank you so much to our panelists today, and thank you to our attendees as well, and for those questions that you've asked our panel. I have this feeling that we could have probably gone on another hour with various sort of avenues and things. But what I would just like to do is ask our panel to, if there was just one thing that they could, they would definitely say for people to take away from today, that would be lovely. So if I could start with you first, Josh, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Debs. So what would I say? On the first point around lack of experience, we didn't really talk too much. We spoke a little bit about placements, etc. And I'll keep this really short. Put yourself out there around networking, speaking to people, and just because a company that you really want to work for and you've identified that you might have heard good things about, or they do a good product or research, engage with those people of that company, no matter how senior they may look, and inquire about volunteering, inquire about, can I get some experience with you? Can I shadow somebody, or and put yourself out there, because just because they're not advertising does not mean that they wouldn't accept to bring someone on. It's good for their corporate social responsibility. It's good for their recruitment processes, and it's good to have people like yourself on their radar. Even if you're a 6-week internship, 1 day a week during university or wherever it may be, later on down the line, they're hiring again. First, they will keep that as their talent pool of people that they know. So put yourself out there, network with people, and yeah, just be a bit brave with who you approach, and use LinkedIn as your friend to firstly identify the companies, and secondly approach those people.
That's great. Thanks, Josh. And Thaddeus, is there one thing that you could just say to everybody before we end today?
Yes, and I would say just have a realistic expectation, and you will likely receive a lot of unfortunately I call them. Okay, you know that email. Thank you for the interview. You did very well. Blah blah blah. But unfortunately, someone has a better experience. And I mean, I can't even remember how many of those I got before I got a proper job. So don't let that stop you. Okay, keep going, and keep learning from every opportunity you have. If you go for an interview and it didn't go well, sit down, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What can I do better? Ask for feedback. Sometimes they give you generic feedback, you know, and this generic feedback, it goes this way, like somebody has a better experience or a better qualification and all that. But some will give you honest feedback, and in that case, learn from that and prepare better for next opportunity.
And Pete, not last. Go on.
You need 2 lines of attack, guys. You need your first line of attack is to get yourself into an entry-level role, an IT role, for you to land and expand, if you like. Okay, that's your first line of attack. The second line of attack is to focus on the role that you really want within cybersecurity, and Josh mentioned, is to focus on those types of organisations, those types of roles. And guess what? Not all roles are on LinkedIn or job boards. Okay. Some organisations do not post roles out there at all. They put them on their website thinking that everybody's going to land on there. So if you've chosen an industry and a role type and a location, look for organisations and role types within your local area, and look for companies that do those sorts of things, and go and approach them directly. Because most of them might not even have it on their website or advertising at all. They might be using a recruiter, and the recruiter's out there looking for someone experienced. But if you approach them directly as an entry-level role to give them a different option, you will get opportunities, if nothing else, to interview. So keep pursuing that avenue, your 2 lines of attack. Excuse me, I got a really bad cough. So yeah, that's my advice.
That is great. Thank you so much to our panel today. It's great to have your expertise on this, and we've had somebody come in and say thank you for the guidance. So it really is appreciated out there. Just as a sideline as well, please don't forget, CREST have a careers advice evening running next week, which is from 6 o'clock in the evening UK time through till 8. We will have someone from the various industries for penetration testing, for threat intelligence, for incident response, and they will be talking about their chosen fields, and they will be answering questions. So please feel free to come through to those. We will make sure you get a link so you can sign up to Eventbrite, and I am looking forward to seeing many of you in the industry moving forward, so that will be great. So thank you very much again to our panel today, and for our attendees for coming along and asking those questions, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day. Take care. If you do have any other questions, then please feel free to let us know. And I know I've had a little reminder to make sure that I post that site that Josh talked about. So I will make sure that that goes out to you. No problem. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye.